So I started this series on Instagram Live called Everything You Need Is Within. And really the thesis of it is elevating and having conversations that I feel like we don't normally have with certain kinds of creators, or highlighting different marginalized creators that I want to be allies to and share my platform with, really. And that is really what the podcast is about. And it's also, like the title, about mindset, about overcoming anything that can be in your way and what's gotten you to where you are, not diminishing the struggle in any way, but talking through it and kind of showing how things can all come from within, whether it's good or bad.
Hey, welcome back to Normalize the Conversation. Today I'm here with Gigi Robinson, a Gen Z thought leader and mental health advocate. Gigi is the host of Everything You Need Is Within, a Gen Z interview series highlighting the intersection of mental health and social media. Gigi, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you really?
Oh, well, thanks for that kind introduction. I am doing really well, slightly overwhelmed because I just created a Monday.com account to manage my team. And there's a lot to manage with all my projects. So I'm just working on streamlining that and getting out of the habit of just being on Google Drive. Because not that there's anything wrong with Google Drive. I just want to be like a business queen, and putting on those pants can be kind of challenging.
They definitely can. And I think that there are so many tools out there that people don't know about. And then you finally learn about them, and it's so overwhelming trying to get it all set up because we are a generation built on Google. It literally was invented around the same time we were born.
Yeah. And I love Google, and it's so intuitive. And I think there's a reason why almost every single university has an enterprise partnership with Google, instead of Outlook or Teams or whatever else they use. But yeah, it is really overwhelming. And I've got, 9 different people on my team to manage. And that's a lot of people and a lot of products and projects and emails and back and forth. So we're just trying to streamline the process, essentially.
Well, good luck. That sounds super fun and
right?
overwhelming. So tell us a little bit more about your podcast and what inspired you to start this.
Yeah, well, thanks for just diving right in. So I have always liked podcasts. I was honestly never like a podcast lover, but what I did love doing was speaking and having and facilitating conversations, whether that was recorded or not. And when the pandemic started, I started getting requests to be on people's podcasts. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's fun. And I just thought, why not start a podcast? Like, there's no better time. If it's just a pandemic hobby and I grow out of it, then cool. But if it turns into a successful podcast that a network picks up, then that would be sick. And I'm able to talk and interview people and create content and have the content inform my conversations on the podcast and vice versa. So I started this series on Instagram Live called Everything You Need Is Within. And really the thesis of it is elevating and having conversations that I feel like we don't normally have with certain kinds of creators, or highlighting different marginalized creators that I want to be allies to and share my platform with, really. And that is really what the podcast is about. And it's also, like the title, about mindset, about overcoming anything that can be in your way and what's gotten you to where you are, not diminishing the struggle in any way, but talking through it and kind of showing how things can all come from within, whether it's good or bad. So yeah, that's the deal with the podcast. It's live on Thursday evenings Eastern time, Thursday late afternoon Pacific time. And I don't know about all the other time zones in the world, but you guys can figure that out. And I stream it live with Spotify Live.
That is amazing. There's not enough conversations specifically geared toward our generation and mental health and overcoming battles and struggles. I think that we live in a time where mental health is so prevalent, especially among our generation, among the youth. And it's really being impacted by social media, by being connected 24/7. Everything that's happening in the world, we know about. We grew up knowing every single thing happening everywhere, and it can be overwhelming. But what
Yeah.
really made you target that intersection of mental health and social media?
Again, like I think it really came back to what was happening in 2020. And I was really taking a look during my senior capstone at USC and, the beginnings of my master's of science at USC was really diving deep into looking at the way that mental health affected us. And then I was asked to speak at Yahoo, at Facebook, at Spotify, all these companies about that intersection from a company perspective, but also as an influencer, as a student, as a consumer. And then I was also able to speak at universities all over to students, to marketing, PR, art students, so on and so forth, about how social media affects us and how you can leverage it and how you can protect yourself online, or your brand per se, or how you can disconnect. So I think part of the struggle was because it was an environmental struggle that I was dealing with online myself. And then it was also a personal struggle of like, I'm a creator, but I have a business and I need to monetize, and my feed, is filled with a bunch of really scary news. But what if I just change the things that I interact with? Well, okay, now my feed's all, jewelry and vacations and plants, it's not as current. So just really honing in and studying that in my schoolwork and my academics was something that I think inspired me to continue that, but in a more casual way where like you and I can just have a conversation about it at any time.
It's amazing that you're having these conversations and you're bringing them to the companies, you're bringing them to students who are going to be the next generation of CEOs and PR teams and marketing for these big tech companies. And it's so true that our social media can be full of all this negative feed, and being able to switch it can be difficult because I think there's a lot of responsibility and accountability and feeling like you have to know everything that's going on all the time and be following all these accounts. And we don't really know where to draw the line. How did you figure out kind of how to draw that line for you and what accounts you should be following?
So yeah, great question. I would say I personally think that I kind of invented this web that works for me that I call the 5 C's of content creation. And it starts kind of in a counterclockwise, in a clockwise rotation. So I look at what's the status of your business or your art or your social media right now. What are you looking at currently? What's going on? What are you posting right now? And then next I move into why do you create content? So that's about your why, who you're creating for, what medium you're creating, how it's helping you, or what, kinds of content maybe are you like consuming, which goes into the next is who is your ideal consumer that's viewing your content, and also what is like your ideal consumption rate, I guess, like what do you want to consume and how are you curating that online? So are you searching it, are you hashtagging it, are you looking up other creators that post about it, so on and so forth. Then I go into where and when do you circulate your content, and by that I mean when are you posting, where is it going, who's going to see it, what platforms are you going on? And last but not least is how does your work build a community and that like form your tribe really, and your fans, your followers, your dedicated people that are interested in it. And also how can you start conversations with other creators that can lead to collaboration? So that was a lot of C's there that I like to use, but I really did find this process very helpful to me because I was able to really do a holistic evaluation of what I was looking at. And I was able to literally change that by evaluating this and unfollowing things that didn't sit with me, so on and so forth. And then a lot of times I also go through a further self-audit where I end up identifying certain people who are like killing the game at, what they're doing. And then I analyze it and then I figure out like, okay, this is what they're doing. What am I doing? And like, how can I kind of cross-pollinate or try to, make something my own with what they do. And yeah, so that's basically how I do it.
First of all, finding that network is so important in that community. But doing what you're doing, because when you're following people and you're seeing content that they're putting out, it can be really encouraging. Versus if you're following a bunch of celebrities who are off on private jets, traveling the world, doing all this amazing stuff that you're comparing yourself to, and why am I not at that level? And following people instead who are doing what you're doing, who love what they're doing, and you're able to learn and grow together.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think another thing that I personally like doing is being challenged and iterating and knowing that like if something's stagnant or if something's not working, then we have to change something. One of my mottos at my company is fail fast, learn faster. And I think that that can be applied to social media. There's a lot of things you can try. For example, my YouTube channel is very small right now, but my motto with it is, okay, we are small. We have this opportunity where we only have about 500 subscribers. Let's post a bunch of different kinds of content, see what does well, and cross off the bucket list what doesn't do well. And that's really like all there is to it.
I think people are so afraid to fail, and
Yeah.
being okay with trying and failing. It's not always going to work out the first time. And when we're on social media, we're seeing all these people who look so successful, and it's like they have everything figured out, and we don't get to see the beginning because we
Yeah.
weren't following them then. We
Right.
don't see all the trial and error, all the times that things worked out and things didn't, all the behind the scenes mental breakdowns, all the effort that goes into every piece of content.
Yeah.
Being willing to fail and know that that's the process for everyone out there is so powerful.
Yeah. It's also like, just because social media and influencing is a career, that doesn't mean that, there's not struggle. You could say the same thing about, let's say, like a public speaker. That doesn't mean that one time you're not going to forget, a key thing to say. How many people are actually going to notice that you've done that? You might consider it a failure. Someone else might consider it the best speech they've ever heard, right? And it might show that you're human and that you didn't just memorize something, that you're not a robot. I don't believe people are robots, just making that clear. But I think it's very important to normalize, and especially in the world where everything is done online, where it's just like, okay, I'm talking to this person on the other side of the screen. Are they real? Like, is the conversation we're having real? Do they actually care? I think failing proves that we're human, and failing shows us where we can improve. And that's really how we have to look at it. If we look at it any other way, honestly, we're just going to be negative about it.
That is so true. And when it comes to failing, does it ever take a toll on your mental health when something's kind of not working out the way you expected? And how do you get through it?
Yeah, I feel like in the past, it at times would, especially if it was like, something I worked really, really hard for and didn't get, or like through like an application or a grant or something like that. Like, I think those kinds of things sting, because then I see the outcome and I see the other people, right? Like, there's no more, oh, I won a scholarship. Like, I don't know who else, was up for it, but I won it. It's now like, okay, you didn't win it, and here's all the people that did, and here's why they're amazing people, and like, we're gonna market them. And I think everybody, like, you have to remember that everybody has their own winning moments, and you have your own winning moments, and you just need to kind of like lean into those and be confident with yourself, and know that, again, like, one, it's part of the process, and two, like, if you feel sad about it, that's absolutely fine. Like, we don't need to make it positive if it's something you really wanted and you didn't get. Like, that does hurt a little, but my view is that the silver lining is that usually there's a next year. You can apply next year. You can, there's next month, there's a next, I don't know, next phase of life kind of thing, where you're going to be able to actually like achieve what you want to achieve. And it's going to feel so good when you do, because then you'll have the story of like, I tried out for this scholarship 3 times, and on the 3rd time I got it. And I think that's like, again, a learning moment. It'll show your growth, and you can only use those failures or those like low moments as a testament to how far you've grown. And I think we just need to reshape our perspective on that.
You are 120% right. And it is so easy to fall apart. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to fall apart. It's okay to feel devastated. And I think that's something we really need to normalize, because people feel so weak and broken because they're upset, because they're hurting. And like you said, there's always a next time. You may not get what you want right away, but when the time is right, I'm a big believer in when the time is right, things will happen. It reminds me of recently, I applied to the NAMI conference and I wasn't accepted. And I was heartbroken. I called my dad just crying and I was like, why am I not good enough? What am I missing? A couple weeks later, I was asked to be the keynote speaker for NAMI California's youth conference.
Right.
So things happen when they're meant to happen. And just because one thing didn't work out doesn't mean everything will.
Exactly. And I think we also just have to be patient. Like, as young people, especially in a world where we're being fed other people's achievements constantly, like not only not seeing the negative, but like we're really seeing so much positive like stuff going on that it wants us, like, I think as a society, like we are more inclined to want to do more and achieve more faster. But like we're kids, like I'm about to turn 24, to adults, like I'm still a child and a kid. And I think that that is kind of cool, to be in that position. And I really hate to say this also, but like when I went back to USC after, I had 2 years out of undergrad, I went back and I gave talks and I was like, oh my God, like I miss campus. Like I wish I did that thing where everyone says it goes so fast, take in every moment, and like don't be like a Nancy Nelly, Nancy, I don't know. Don't be, was that like, did I say that right? I don't even know. Don't be a negative Nancy. That's what it is. And like don't, be upset like at certain things, like enjoy every minute. And like when I went back, having been out of it for 2 years, I was like, damn, I wish that I was slower and I enjoyed every minute and I took a moment to just like take in the glory of like where I was in that given moment. And I think we can apply that to any moment in time. So even like with certain things that I get to do, because of my career today, like I remind myself, like, don't think about what you're going to do when you're going home or when you're opening your phone next to check your email. Like, enjoy where you're at, snap some photos, shoot your content, do your job, and like just like live in it. And I feel like as Gen Z, we're just constantly being propelled forward instead of living in the moment. And that is what is the most detrimental to our mental health, because we're focused on the future and not on the present. And when you're focused on a future mindset, a lot of times you can get really upset with where you're currently at. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I'm in that same boat, about to turn 24, back in college doing a master's. And it's so true. When you get back there, it's like I was so focused on getting out of here, graduating, starting this career, moving forward, that I didn't take the time to take it all in, to celebrate those moments where I passed an exam I didn't think I was going to, or enjoy those nights where I probably should have been in the library studying, but I wasn't. And you're right, it does relate to every piece of our lives, because we are growing up in a world where we're seeing everyone's success all the time. And we're seeing people so young. I mean, there's like TikTokers who are 15 who are blowing up. And then it's so easy to compare yourself and be like, how are they so much further ahead? I have almost 10 years on them. Mm-hmm. Where am I going wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. But like, that's the comparison game we just have to snap out of and remember that like that's somebody else's journey and there's nothing that they do that can affect your journey other than hopefully inspiring you. Because if you internalize like something negative because it's it logically doesn't make sense. Like you are internalizing somebody else's success and making yourself feel bad because you didn't do what somebody else did. Like logically, when you break it down, it makes no sense. And I think a lot of the time we just move faster and we're like, well, they have 100 million followers and they're 15 or 16 and, they're a better creator than me because of that. It's like, no, that's their individual journey and their struggles, I'm sure, are very different than yours, and that's okay. And their academics are going to be very different than yours and their financial status is going to be different. But you know what? You can't control somebody else ever, really, unless they're your child, your dog, right? Like, I don't even think you can control your child a lot of the time. So it's really hard, the comparison game, to snap yourself out of it. But I just try to honestly, I was having this conversation with my brother the other day because I'm not like a scroller. Like I'm a very conscious consumer when it comes to social media, but I'm a creator. So I post my content and then I get off the app. Like I don't spend time on these apps. And I feel like that's the move with a lot of creators because we're constantly creating. It's not like we're on all day versus regular people that aren't full-time content creators are consuming content as entertainment to get away from their jobs. And that's where, again, the comparison comes in on a really high level where they're seeing the stuff that creators are putting out and they're like, oh, damn, like I'm sitting in a chair at a desk doing an accounting or engineering or blah, blah, blah job. And somebody else is out here just making videos for a living. Like, but they think, oh yeah, like that person making videos must just have it so easy. Like all they're doing is posting online. But what you don't realize a lot of the time is that a lot of the, almost all of the content that content creators make is like free content for their audiences. They're not getting compensated at all. So it's like a gambling game trying to decide what content to make that's going to do well for an audience. And then when it hits that target audience, they engage with it, but it kind of can sometimes make them feel bad. So like on the content creator side, how can you create content that makes people like feel good and empowered instead of comparing and bad and lead to bad habits? And on the consumer side of things, how can you consciously choose what to consume and make sure that you remember that if you're doing it for entertainment, that it's for entertainment and it has nothing to do with you. Even if you relate, it's nothing that you can control.
First of all, the way you explain the comparison, wow, that's my new favorite thing, because no one explains it like that. No one talks about how illogical it is. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why am I attacking myself and beating myself down over someone else's success? And, you know, the fact of content creators and not being on social media all day, that is so huge because you're right. As consumers, we are constantly just scrolling and scrolling. And it's really hard when apps are so addictive. For me, I know that I was not the kind of person to be on social media at all. Hate being on social media until I downloaded TikTok. That was it. It's hard.
Yeah, it really can be hard. But again, like you can, in a lot of ways, customize that experience. It's just about who you're following and why you're following and what you're looking up. And these algorithms, people say the algorithm is so good. It's based on, it knows what I like. Yeah, it knows what you like because you're typing in certain things, you're engaging with certain things. It analyzes how much watch time you watch certain kinds of videos and will feed you more videos. And I think if you don't want to see a certain kind of thing, you can write not interested, you can report it, you can write I don't like this, and then you can also start like searching, like literally searching. Like I get a lot of like plant videos or like puppies, like or motivation or tarot. Like I get all of those kinds of content on my feed because that's what I'm searching and that's what I'm engaging with. Now my brother likes, meat, like barbecue style, like cooking, whatever. I don't eat meat. So I'm like, get that off of my feed. And he loves it. And it's like on his feed, like engineering, space, all kinds of things that he finds fascinating. And again, like he is a very, very active consumer of content versus again me, where I'm just literally posting and maybe I'll watch a couple videos, but it's about like things that I like. So yeah, TikTok can be addictive, but you can really curate your experience. You can also do the thing where like you can lock yourself out of TikTok after a certain amount of time, like I think on iCloud settings, or there might be an app. I don't know. I'd done it like once or twice, but it was really challenging, honestly. I did that with Instagram and it was really hard. But yeah.
I think it's a parental lock that you can do. I've done it to myself a couple times.
Yeah.
So helpful because then you consciously have to type in that code and allow yourself back into the app, and you have a quick second to realize and recognize that you are putting yourself back into a space that may not be the healthiest for you, especially if you're not following the right kind of accounts. And I don't think people realize that we do choose what we consume. I
Yeah.
spent hours on someone's page just looking at how like pretty they were. And then all of a sudden it's all these like beautiful models all over my TikTok. And I was like, this is so bad for me. I
Yeah.
It spiraled me for a quick like hour. And we don't realize how much the content that we're consuming is affecting us, even if it doesn't mean to.
Right. And then when you can get to the point of awareness where you are, where you realize that, that's where you have to be like, how can I find other like-minded people that feel the same way that I do online, and or how can I find content that I know certain creators are, engaging with, and then become friends with somebody in that world online. I mean, it's not hard to become friends with somebody online nowadays. A lot of my friends I've met like online, and they're really, I'm close friends with them, and it's just like really fun and exciting. But I think that's the moment where if you're conscious of the things that don't work, you can work towards the things that will work, and that's where again you can build that community, you can make those friendships, and if you are a creator you can start making content kind of in that bubble. But you have to remember that, like, also again, you can look up the stats, but I think it's like something like less than 10% of people look like these like gorgeous supermodels that we see a lot. And I think it's a really interesting moment, especially now as technology moves into Web3 and AR and VR. A lot of these virtual reality like figures are looking a lot like the original kind of stereotypes of what models were. And I think as we move into Web3, as kids are on Web3 being these little avatars, they're going to continue to have body dysmorphia, especially until we can get like exact scans of our body, which I don't know at what point that will exist with technology. But like until we can get to that point, I think there's going to be a curve of people comparing themselves to these digital avatars, the same way that growing up, you and I and a lot of other people may have compared themselves to the Victoria's Secret angels and been like, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not good enough, my boobs aren't big enough, my butt's too big, blah, blah, blah. And I really do think this is a moment where like digital influencers, not like regular, but I mean like robot influencers and influencers in the metaverse land, are going to start to shape behaviors when it comes to self-worth and comparison, which I'm a little bit scared for. But I think we need to set up policies now with our own social media. Like we need to understand social media as it is and the platforms and posting and those cadences before we move into legislation for the metaverse. But they should work in tandem. I don't know. It's a lot. I don't even know if what I said would resonate with anybody listening, but yeah.
I agree. And social media has really, I think, amplified a lot of body dysmorphia. And now that you're creating avatars that are supposed to be you, that can create so much more. What is some advice you have for people who may be struggling with comparing their bodies to other people or to these avatars?
Yeah, well, again, I think it's going to be a learning curve. I'm not sure what the full capabilities of building these robot avatars are really going to be and what the customization is. I mean, I know we can kind of do it with Bitmojis, but like still like Bitmojis, we're like, oh, they're so cute, right? And it's like, it looks like you, but it's not fully you. But then sometimes I'm like, does my Bitmoji resemble me? Like, is this a good representation? And I'm like, why am I comparing myself to like a character? Like, this is really bizarre that I'm doing this, and that I'm even being like, oh, well, do I really look like that? Like, someone gonna know that's me? Like, obviously, if I have my name next to it, yes, it will. But advice for people that have issues with body image, I mean, first and foremost, I would say if you are in a life-threatening position, please consult a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I don't work in medicine. This is all purely speculative and my experience. But I truly think that if you're having self-deprecating thoughts and about your body, and if you're looking to other people for validation about your body, that you have some confidence work to do. And it really has to come from within, where you're like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And how can I be nicer to myself and love myself? Because like truthfully, like you only have one body in this time on earth. Like you have to be nice to yourself. I think there's actually studies that have come out that show that if you change the language around your body and around yourself, your brain will believe it. Like your brain doesn't know like what's right and what's wrong, like what's conscious and what's not conscious. So you really, again, have the power to dictate what goes on in your mind. So I'm not saying like you can just like be like, oh my God, positive, yay, and then everything's fine. Like obviously not. It takes practice. But I used to have issues with my body image, especially because of my chronic illness and like I don't work out a lot. So, you know what? Have I always had like a little bit of like a muffin top coming out of my jeans? Yeah. But like, you know what? That's also really freaking normal. And a lot of people have that. And we wear longer shirts to cover it up. And like, that's okay. And you know what? The fact that I'm even able to wear a pair of jeans and get out of my house some days is great. So I try to take those kinds of angles where I'm like, is it ideal? And do I look like a supermodel? No. But am I confident and happy with how I look and what my body is able to do right now? Sure. And like, do I know how to pose in photos? Sure. Like, can I wear clothes that are more flattering? Absolutely. Like, there's a lot of things that we can do to change our thinking around our bodies. And if we tell ourselves that we're nice and like if we tell ourselves we're hot, if we are like, you know what, I fucking love you, like you're a badass, like literally you see the mirrors behind me. I don't know if the guests are going to be able to see this video, but like I literally have mirrors on my desk, behind me, next to me, and I like catch myself and like I literally do double takes of myself all day. Not in a not in a like conceited way, but I'm just like, oh my God, like cutie, like didn't see you from that angle, like nice to meet you, like you're doing really great today, like you got out of bed. Like I really do talk to myself every day, and I think that that is something that helps when I, at least in the past, like that's the main difference that I've seen from the past, is where before I would say these self-deprecating things, but like if you were to say something mean to yourself and actually look at yourself in the mirror while you're doing it, you would probably feel like embarrassed and be like, wait, that's not true. Like, no. So I just think that's kind of my advice. I don't know. That was like also very like all over the place.
No, that's incredible advice. I think that I feel like I think a lot, but looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, the way you talk to yourself matters. And if you're looking at yourself, you're looking yourself in the eyes and you're encouraging yourself, that does so much for your self-esteem and your self-confidence. Because unconsciously, it's so easy to sit there and tell ourselves everything that's wrong with us. And then we take pictures, and there are all these apps that alter the way our face looks, or all these filters that we can use on social media to make us look a different way. So if we don't take the time to talk to ourselves, to look at ourselves and to say something positive, it can be so hard to build any form of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think also over the years, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually started off as a photographer. And so I've understood from a technical level what goes into making these images, how to professionally retouch, what professional lighting looks like, wardrobe, hair and makeup, posing, post editing, printed, advertisements, like knowing all of that and then seeing it on social media and being like, oh, people are just being so stupid using these fucking filters and these apps. Like, first of all, they don't know what they're doing. Second of all, it's again creating a false reality. It's the same as old school advertising. It's like, we need to stop retouching. We need to stop editing the bodies. And if we do that, then we need to disclaim it. So I personally don't retouch or edit. My like content for Sports Illustrated is not going to be edited at all, which I'm super excited about. And I think, again, it's just something that I'm really passionate to kind of uncover and also teach people that like it's okay if you compare yourself, but like just remember that not everything is real.
Exactly. And being able to honor ourselves the way we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can like fully be something that can destroy how we think about ourselves. I mean, there's like a lot of times where I would put like the cute little filter on like my face and be like, oh, like, damn, I wish my lips were bigger. But like, why are we in a world where we feel like we need to alter ourselves again based on a virtual reality? Like that is just simply unattainable. Even if I got lip filler, it wouldn't look like the fucking filter. Even if I got the best plastic surgery, it's not going to look like that. I think, like I hate to use this example, but the Kardashians and how they look on their social media versus how they look on actual television, I mean, it's different. They look different. And then people put it side by side and they're like, oh my God, like, they're not real, or like they've done so much photoshopping. And you know what? It's like, okay, if that's what they have to do so that they feel confident, because again, they're also like the biggest people with social followings in the world, I guess I get it. At the same time, it's like, don't you want to be role models for the way that the next generation grows up? Like, can't we, again, normalize it? And I just think it's going to take a long time for them, if they ever do come out of that retouching and editing and perfect photos kind of mindset, and to really just be plain and authentic. But again, like, not everyone's the Kardashians. We have to remember that we don't have access to, get the best plastic surgeons in town, the best spray tans, the best makeup artists. We don't have that. We're regular people. And we just have to remember, that we can't compare ourselves to that. That's not our position. It's not nice for us to do that to ourselves.
Yeah, you are 100% right. And people with the biggest followings do have the most influence. And when they are editing or retouching and we don't recognize that they are, that can be very difficult for us. So being able to form that type of awareness that someone may not look the way they do on social media, and that is their choice on what to do with their photos. But we can't let that dictate who we are and who we want to be. It's our choice how we receive it.
Yeah, it really is.
So with kind of social media and learning not to edit photos, I think it's so ingrained in so many people's minds that this is what they have to do. And honestly, like on my social media, I get ads all the time for all these different like filters that you can use and all these different apps. And we just consume that content all the time. So what really helps you be confident when you post a photo? I know so many people delete when they don't get enough likes. I'm so that person, by the way. But what helps you be confident so that you can put an image out there without being so worried about the way people receive it and the way they comment or like?
Great question. I would say that it's not your business what other people think of you, first and foremost. Second of all, you can hide the amount of likes to like, and only you can see it. I think that that's one of the most beneficial things I've done that's really helped me. Even if the likes did show, I would just kind of shrug my shoulders. Like, we really live in a world where you can't guarantee anything. You can't guarantee a ballpark amount of likes or anything. Like the other day, because of a certain like sustainability themed partnership that I was doing, my ad tanked. Why did my ad do so poorly? Well, I don't talk about sustainability that often, but it was like a part of a contract where it was like, you have to post about whatever kind of product you want from this company, but it has to be sustainability themed. And they told me after I signed the contract, and I was like, dear Lord, I need this contract because I need to make money, obviously, but the ad didn't do well. And I was aware beforehand, and I made it very clear. I was like, this is very manipulative and this is not going to perform well. And the reason is because that's not authentic to my brand. If I made any product about mental health, and cooking, absolutely that would do well because people can relate to that. But people don't come to my page to learn about sustainability and hacks like that. So, that's a conversation I think creators have to have with brands when it comes to working with brands. And that's how a very clear example of how audiences can know when you're like super into something or like kind of bullshitting. And that's been something that's been a learning curve over the past couple of years, but you kind of have to shrug your shoulders and say, I hope we do better next time. And that's just that. Maybe you won't work with a certain brand in the future. Maybe, there's going to be like a different angle that you'll approach in the future. You just have to, again, fail fast. Like, that would be considered in my book a failure. But what I learned is my audience doesn't like that. and I don't need to post those kinds of posts anymore. I need to focus on what does work. And it's kind of like a process of elimination. So if something doesn't do well, also there's a lot of other factors. Like I posted on the weekend. Coachella was happening last weekend. Our feeds are filled with Coachella and Revolve Festival drama. Are people going to see ads? No, they're going to see Coachella and outfits, and that's what they want to look at for this past weekend in the next couple of weeks. So is it timing? Yeah. Can I control that? No. Did I have to post a deliverable? Yes. Did I have any control over that? No. So we just have to know that things change and we can't internalize it. It's a stupid number. In 60 days, you're not going to look back and remember, oh, there was this one Instagram post that I posted that did not do really well. You're going to go back and look at that picture in 60 days and be like, damn, I looked hot, or oh my God, I had so much fun. And I think if we remember and take the mindset of, is this going to affect me, this stupid, obsolete number, is it going to affect me 60 days from now, 6 months from now, 6 years from now? The answer is going to be no.
Shifting our mindset is so important. And it just goes back to what you said in the beginning. Everything you need is within. Gigi, you have been absolutely amazing. How can people find you, your podcast, and more about how to follow you?
Yeah, well, thanks. This was so much fun. I absolutely loved our convo. Really, really fun. And I hope people found value. My handles are just the @ symbol, the word it's Gigi Robinson anywhere. And then you can follow my podcast, Everything You Need Is Within. If you want to go to my website, it's gigirobinson.com. Otherwise, that's about it.